Infertility is seen by the infertile couples from a collectivistic culture. Infertility, revolving around biomedical, psychological, social, economic, cultural, and religious spheres, is defined as the inability of a non-contraceptive couple to achieve pregnancy after 1 or 2 years of regular unprotected heterosexual intercourse. The public perceives infertility as a permanent inability to give birth. A childless couple may not view themselves as infertile until they consider childlessness a problem. Infertility is distinguishable from subfecundity, which refers to any couple having trouble in carrying a pregnancy to a live birth, if conception occurs, whereas the clinical definition of infecundity is no pregnancy resulting in live birth after 12 months of unprotected intercourse. Nearly 4.3 million married women and their partners possess impaired fecundity. Infertility is characterized as primary for nulliparous women and secondary for parous women. It is estimated that 1 in 10 couples have either primary or secondary infertility in the U.S., and the U.S. infertility specialists report infertile couples to be the most neglected and silent minorities. Womanhood, which is perceived as a woman's biological destiny, is drastically distorted when she has difficulty in conception or carrying of a live birth, resulting in a profound sense of loss and lack of feeling as a real woman. Childlessness and stigma associated with infertility holds the potential to either cause a serious strain on a couple's interpersonal relationship, tearing one's marriage apart, or strengthen their bond. Women, comparative to men, confront several medical and non-medical treatments for pregnancy as the issue is solely considered to be a woman's problem. Participation of men in diagnosis and treatment of infertility appears to be limited. Culture, a man-made part of environment, is always influential through socialization. It involves publicly shared repertoires including values, roles and rules which shape the thought patterns, focus of attention, attitudes, and behaviors of an individual. The indicators of health and abnormality possess critical cultural variations, and it is deemed important for the clinicians to understand the inevitable effects of culture on health-seeking behavior of an individual. Infertility is considered a medical condition in Western countries, however, it is a taboo in various non-Western countries. Several studies have pointed out that infertility is not well understood and properly perceived in many parts of the world. Infertility varies among different socio-cultural contexts. It is directly linked to the social status of women in Oriental, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, Indian, and Pakistani cultures where bearing children, particularly sons, defines a woman's identity, and the treatment of infertility surrounds various barriers. Pakistani culture views reproduction as a social and cultural phenomenon rather than a biological one. Infertile women are receptive of major blame for reproductive setback, regardless of the medical cause, resulting in personal grief, frustration, ostracism, social stigma, being deprived of husband's property, husband's second marriage, and even divorce. They are considered failed due to being unable to fulfill their culturally sanctioned role as mothers. Motherhood is essential in securing a woman's position in Pakistani society, for providing a successor to the family. The earlier studies conducted on infertility in Pakistan did not comprehend the cultural barriers in treating infertility. This gap was filled by one of Dr. Sukoon's studies in Pakistan. His study followed a qualitative research designed to explore the perception of infertility and its counterparts by the infertile couples, the cultural barriers in treatment, and the indigenous coping mechanism. As the understudied subject is still a taboo in the understudied culture, it was extremely difficult to approach those infertile couples who could be willing to participate in the study. The private infertility clinics and public hospitals in Islamabad, Pakistan were searched, and, with a great effort, 20 couples were interviewed. These couples consisted of primary and secondary infertile couples of different age groups and socioeconomic backgrounds. They were specifically undergoing in vitro fertilization and intracytoplasmic sperm injection. IVF and ICSI are artificial processes of fertilizing in which eggs and sperms are fertilized outside human body. A specific semi-structured interview schedule was designed to conduct the interviews. The interview schedule was developed based on the information that was collected through extensive literature review and archival data on infertility. The interview schedule was in Urdu and comprised of 19 open-ended questions that covered different aspects of infertility such as the nature, causes, consequences and impact of infertility. It also included questions to ask for the barriers in the treatment of infertility and the indigenous coping strategies of the infertile couples. The major themes of the questions revolved around the perception of the infertile couples about the nature, causes, and sociocultural consequences of infertility in Pakistan. These major understudied themes included perception of the infertile couples about the nature of infertility, perception of the infertile couples about the causes of infertility, perception of the infertile couples about the social and cultural consequences of infertility, perception of the infertile couples about the social victimization in infertility, perception of the infertile couples about facing the impact of infertility as a couple, perception of the infertile couples about the cultural barriers in the treatment of infertility, and perception of the infertile couples about the indigenous coping strategies in the condition of being infertile. The responses gathered on the aforesaid major themes got categorized into 249 sub-themes which were recorded in 40 tables. The findings of the study clearly depicted the socio-cultural factors involved in considering infertility as a matter of shame and bad reputation for not only the couple but for the entire family. Wives, according to the findings of the study, are highly victimized if the couple is unable to reproduce. Consulting medical doctors or psychotherapists for even getting a proper advice for infertility is seen shameful in Pakistani culture. On the other hand, there has been an increasing trend in Western countries to treat infertility by using assisted reproductive technologies such as in vitro fertilization and intracytoplasmic sperm injection. The in vitro fertilization, as its name suggests, i.e. in glass fertilization, is a procedure in which the eggs from the female partner and sperms from the male partner are extracted. Female eggs, once they get mature, are fertilized manually in a dish in laboratory through a precise regulated dose of reproductive hormone HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, and the embryo formed after a few hours is then transplanted into the female partner's uterus to continue with the rest of pregnancy procedure. Despite this simple case, the procedure might include provision of donor sperm or eggs when any of the partner is unable to produce, and surrogate motherhood, which characterizes the transfer of embryo into another woman's womb. Since the first ever birth by using in vitro fertilization in July 1978 in England, the procedure was initiated worldwide for treating female infertility and was considered successful. These procedures, however, have been misunderstood and socially criticized in many parts of the world. The treatment, being available in Pakistan, has not been the choice for most of the infertile couples due to cultural reasons. Culture is such an influential source which sets rules for the accepted and unaccepted means of treatment. People generally do not possess the psychosocial capacities to oppose the traditional perception for unusual medical and psychological problems. The study by Dr. Sukoon has established that the infertile couples in a collectivistic culture do face several significant problems in getting appropriate treatment for infertility. The same trend seems to go on and on until the literacy rates are not improved and, instead of remaining worried for what others would say, people start thinking rationally. Although the study was limited to interviewing a few respondents only, it has portrayed the latest picture of the cultural barriers involved in the treatment of infertility in Pakistan. The study suggests the stakeholders to raise more awareness on this subject in the country to overcome the identified barriers. Thanks for listening. To read the entire paper, kindly visit www.dersakoon.info.